We're in.
We are
live. Hello.
Good day, good evening, and good night, as Truman said on the Truman Show. But we're not the Truman Show. We are the Firefly Initiative show, and welcome to this month's newsletter. Again, welcome back to my buddy, partner, co-founder, and innovation guru, Mr. Courtney Smith. And we are really fortunate to have with us a jet in the volunteer sector by the name of Zac Cuttriss, who is with First Grovedale Scouts and in his full, almost full regalia today. Thanks for joining us, Zac.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys asking me to come on.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, look, we're absolutely delighted, mate. I haven't had a lot to do with the conversation, but I know Daryl and you have had some sporting chats, given Daryl's history with his mum in the space, and then of course finding a young enthusiastic leader who sees the light of the Firefly, which is lovely from our perspective. What's one curious piece of information about you and scouting that no one would know and that you'd be able to share with us today, Zac?
Oh, the one that no one would know is a real throw. Because
you don't want anyone to ever know, right?
no throw you under the bus question, Zac. So question number one, here you go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard to find the scouting stuff that no one knows because, like scouting is, like we emphasize, so strongly in our program, it's all about the teamwork and working with your friends. And because I'm so passionate about scouting, I love talking about it. So there's a lot of stuff that you end up just, like you do it. As my shirt says, eat, sleep, scout, repeat.
Yeah.
You're always have that part of your brain running, and I'm always talking about it. So, I mean, to pivot it slightly from what you asked, one of the things that people really don't expect when you start talking about scouting is just all the people that you end up meeting, and developing relationships with, like all the members of parliament that I've talked to who are on board. And probably one of my coolest scouting stories is I once went to the zoo with the King of Sweden.
Right.
That's the thing I got to do through Scouts.
Olaf the Great. The reason why I say that...
I'm not entirely sure. He was just...
You just called him the king.
But I went to the zoo with the King of Sweden.
There you go.
We were doing Swedish and Viking things the other night at an axe throwing venue, doing the same thing, to be honest, in a slightly different way, which is coming together in a business community and talking to people in a unique and interesting way over throwing axes for something different to do.
Yeah.
So, it is really funny though. It's one of those unique things, and it's funny that you went to the zoo with the King of Sweden through our scouting organisation. It's funny how you get to meet people. I had the opportunity and the privilege to meet Princess Diana. We were all there for the presentation when they were in Australia, and our whole scout troop was lined up, all looking very regal and proper, and we had to have our shoes spit polished that day and all sorts of stuff. But I don't think there's a lot of quasi, like I always refer to Scouts as a quasi social sporting, activity based organization, because it teaches you all those things and it's good fundamental. And I don't think there's a lot of other organizations that give you such unique opportunities to meet those sort of individuals. So I don't know whether Princess Diana is topped by the King of Sweden, but yeah, good story. Were you looking at the monkeys, or like what was he?
It was the 100-year celebration of Cub Scouts.
Right.
So 2016, Cub Scouts had been in Australia for 100 years. And so we had Baloo's picnic at the Melbourne Zoo. So all the Cubs from all over Victoria came to Melbourne Zoo. And because he was in the country for something else, probably.
Stuff,
but he came he swung past the zoo and walked around the zoo with everyone as well. The King of Sweden, who's the chief scout of the world.
Yeah, he's a major ambassador for what I understood. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was in. So the chief scout position is, more of an ambassador position. They don't actually inform our policy and procedure. But the chief scout, there's one for every state and country. We got Shane Jacobson is Victoria's chief scout. Kenny.
Oh, yeah.
So he does a lot of promo stuff for us in Victoria. The Governor General is the Chief Scout of Australia, but it's someone who was in scouting as a kid and has gone on to do, various levels of great things. Neil Armstrong, first man on the moon, was a scout. Bear Grylls is the Chief Scout in England. And he went through the program, and now he's one of the people you think about when you think about scouting skills. Even if you don't necessarily put the words to it. But what you were saying about I think scouting is in a really unique position because we do offer a lot of the things that other, activities do. Like you've got, the teamwork stuff, you get that from a sport, right?
Yeah.
But we also offer leadership, which you can only sometimes get in some sports, because not all sports are geared to that. And we have outdoor skills, we have indoor skills, we have life skills, we build resilience. It's all these elements. It's not just what makes scouting so unique is the breadth of what we offer as well. If you go and play a sport, you end up focused on one sport, and often, it's your role within that sporting team. Like if you're playing soccer and you're a goalkeeper, you get really good at being a goalkeeper, and you work with your team, and you get your outdoor experiences being a goalkeeper, and that's it, right? But within scouting, you get to do a bit of everything all the time. That's one of the reasons why I love it. It's because you get to do. That's what makes scouting like nothing else. It's because you get to do everything across a whole range of opportunities. Yeah. Go into the zoo with the King of Sweden being one of them.
Yeah.
And I know that any soccer team would be happy to have you on it, given your 6'7" stature to be a goalkeeper.
Yes. I'll just stand there with my arms out. No one can get a goal.
I'll give you a bit of data that you don't know about my geography, Zach. Given this is the first time we're meeting, is that I live around the corner, and my boys went to Baden-Powell Scouts. So that is like one of the preemptive scouting places, given Baden-Powell, named after Baden-Powell himself. So it's a very big scouting group. And my favourite story was not necessarily about all of the things you mentioned, but actually doing things that you just don't get to do in real life. And you get to take your kids on activities that you don't normally think of. Like, I'm a sports guy, right? So some of the things that you do in scouts is just as wholesome as hell. Wholesome as hell, probably not quite linking those two together. extremely wholesome, right? And so one of them was scooting down on pre-frozen ice blocks down a hill, using them as sleds, which I thought was an absolute riot and extremely funny. I love
a good bit of ice blocking.
Oh yeah, like these are the things, right? So the thing that we're here today to talk about is a couple of things. Number one is to dive in a little bit to scouts and the wholesome nature of scouts, the value of scouts to community, how scouts has formulated pathways for people to grow into leaders, as you've said. But some of the things that Firefly is trying to do as well is trying to find the ambassadors, and we're all working towards building these communities together. But badges, let's talk about badges for a little bit, because we believe gamification is a good thing. I feel like Scouts almost invented gamification. So can you talk to me a little bit about badges and the importance of badges and gamification in the scouting hierarchy? Yeah.
I mean, you see it the most in actually as a scout leader coming to scout nights. For so many of the kids, it's when you bring up an activity, it's like, do I get a badge for this? Right. And, as a youth member as well, there was just like finding the interests that I had and how that aligned with the badge system and stuff I was already doing. And it's like, how can I get a badge for this?
Yeah.
I want to fill up my shirt. I want to show that I've been out and done stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. And, this is, I don't think any of the kids are thinking about it this way necessarily, because they wouldn't put it in so many words. But, those badges do tell a story, right? Like when you've got that, when you've got the patch sitting on your arm, that shows that you've gone out and done something.
Yes.
And so I think it's a very good way of achievement, compared to stuff like, in school. And like, I got my diploma of engineering up here.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I got one piece of paper to show the effort I put in for that,
it's
as
funny,
opposed to.
Yeah, no, it's a really good statement, because there's this growing wave of conversation around that, funnily enough, around micro-credentialing. And I know, there's a big difference between AI and scouting, right? And that's a really good thing, in my opinion, because AI does have its place in some of the things we do in our business and our life. But the one thing that I know that we all need is that human connection and human touch. But that education piece that AI brings allows for micro-credentialing, which you just talked to, which is ability to see yourself achieving outcomes on these micro levels, which is the same as gamification and badges and all those sorts of things. So it's intriguing to try and design a system around that. And you've played a little bit with Firefly. Do you think we've got some of the ingredients right around the Scout badge hierarchy, or what would you suggest would be the improvements that you would give us in regards to that badge design we've tried to create?
Well, I think I've seen the few of the badges that have come across that I've earned. Logging my first, when you do your first hour, you get a badge, and your first 10 hours, you get a badge, and I assume that just keeps racking up.
It does. It's become the pinnacle AO of Australia, because you've done 1,000 hours. Someone like you has probably done, by life end, probably 10, 15,000 hours towards the cause. Volunteering.
Definitely more than that.
See, this is why we're going to cut this stuff, mate. This is why we're going to get this on record.
Yeah.
Because we just don't know. There's how many Zacs are there out there in scouting? How many Zacs would there be in scouting that are doing what you do on a daily basis?
I mean, I just this weekend gone, I went on my scouting management course, where it was, that's your the leader of adults qualification, and that was a full course of 20. Okay. Of people who were, doing the leader of adults skills.
Right. Yep.
Because I'm not only as I'm still involved as a youth program leader, we call them. So I'm still working with the kids directly. And I'm never going to stop that for as long as I can. But also, taking on these leader of adults roles as the group leader at First Grovedale, and making sure that we do have that management skills. And that's it's always the never ending battles of, stuff we have, Daryl and I have talked about before, that every volunteer organization would understand. If, we've got, keeping our recruitment up, making sure our finances are managed, making sure that we've got the right equipment, making sure that we pay our bills, keep the electricity on, keep the water on, keep the gas on, all that stuff. I do. There's a scout sent it out the other day. We've got. I'll double check the numbers. I'll bring them up. But they did let us know the other day how many volunteers there are in Scouts Victoria, like just across Scouts Victoria. Not.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. I'll be super interested. And while you're doing that, like the thing that I'd like to make comment there is volunteering, whilst you get to meet great people and you get to engage in great activities that you're passionate about, what you just described then in Scouts is soft skills and hard skills that you're developing as well. So soft skills around, linking with humans and engaging with kids and making them have fun and enjoy themselves. And then the hard skills, which is how do you manage people? How do you actually get people to do what you want to do? So, I mean, that in its own right is sometimes the bit that the non-volunteers don't see or don't recognise
the
growth opportunities of being in these roles.
Speaking about that, just to jump back to the badge bit for a minute, one of the things that, I'm just going to check because I'm a bit old school, because it was interesting when you were talking about those badges, and I remember how frustrated Mum would get when you would go from from one level badge, which was a bronze boomerang, and you'd have all your badges for it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be all over your shirt, and now it'd be time to move up because you got that once. You'd have to take all those badges off. And so we finished up having a badge blanket, where all those badges then finish up residing on that. But it was the one thing, and I think we can have a look at this model again too, Smithy, is that there is the underlying achievement badges that then lead to the gold boomerang. And, so they're the echelons of, you need these 20 badges to get bronze, and then you move up to these 20 badges to get silver, and then these 20 badges to get gold. We've got 5 different badge streams, as Zac has already mentioned. You get a badge for your first hour, and then your 10th hour, and then your 25th hour, and then your 50th hour. I think it's probably we can have a look at that. But the question I was going to ask is, it still works on that process, right? Number one, you've got each different boomerang levels. At what level is the volunteer badge now?
For volunteers, within scouting, they've got.
For the
we don't
scout, is there a volunteer badge for achievement badge for scouts?
It's rolled into one of the badges that we do.
Right.
There's
how does that work?
So they've changed the system a bit from when Daryl was a youth member.
Yeah.
So we have what's called our so we have 2 main streams of the badges, which is your outdoor adventure skills, and that's what most people think of when they think of scouting.
Yeah, totally.
Is your that's your camping and your bushcraft and your paddling and your cycling and your alpine and all these different areas,
and all that stuff, wood chopping,
all those scouting things that that's what people have the perception of scouts being, I think, is what that comes down to. And then you've also got your they call them, so all of our proficiency badges have turned into what they call special interest areas, and it's actually, so there's 6 categories that kids can get a badge in, and you've got to earn badges across the categories in order to actually achieve your higher level peak awards, like your Grey Wolf in Cubs.
Yep.
And those actually set, like the kid can actually set a goal for themselves, which is then approved by the other kids and the leaders. And so for someone to actually for a kid to, if they wanted to, if their growth pitch was to do volunteering, like that's how you can earn, like for a growth and personal development badge. I would, as a leader, very much encourage them to go do some volunteering time and come back and tell the other kids about it, tell the other kids what they got out of it. And that's actually structured into the badge. Is in order to actually earn the badge, you also have to come and talk about it, right? You have to show off what you've done in some way and tell us how you've grown.
Yeah, okay.
So, and I think one of the
I'm just thinking out
one of the
loud
things
here.
that was really good about
Is about
one of the things they changed.
Sorry, go Zac.
Sorry.
I'll shut up.
Yeah. One of the when they changed from the proficiency badge model, which is what a lot of people still think scouting is. When they changed from that model, it actually like gives a bit more freedom for us to give out the badges at the level that a kid is at, as opposed to having this hard prescribed text of what they have to get to in order to actually earn a badge. We have the freedom to, make sure that the kids who are they need like the younger kids as well, because we have an age range, right? Yeah. Like an 8-year-old isn't going to be doing the same amount of work as an 11-year-old. But those 11-year-olds, we can push further and actually get them doing bigger and better and greater things as opposed to they just have to fulfill the requirements that's on a piece of paper. We can actually get them doing bigger and better things, which is, I think, one of the really good things that came with the introductions of the SIA system.
Who designs the SIA system? Sorry for interjecting, because I know you asked a question. Yeah.
That was 2019. We had our youth program review, so they that's when it started rolling out.
That's head office Scouts Australia. Is that who does that?
National, yeah.
National.
So national, and they worked with youth members and leaders from all over the country.
Yeah. So unanimously, then, in some sense, you're saying that self-achievement quest-driven design became the new norm and worked really well to allow people to run at pace that they were comfortable with. Yeah, really interesting. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, Darryl.
And there is a bit of managing it as leaders to make sure that they're actually running at a level slightly above what they're comfortable with, because we do want to push the kids. We want them to be
stretched.
Actually putting some effort in and growing as they get these badges.
And is there a tool to manage that?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's
a
software tool?
Darryl about it. We have a you guys just dropped out for a second. Hello?
I was just saying, is that a software tool or a paper tool? How's that managed? Are you there, Darryl?
Yeah, I'm here.
I think we've dropped out on Zac's side, maybe. I can...
Oh, yeah.
You guys are cutting in and out.
Right.
Hello?
Well, that's interesting. Yeah.
I think we've got a good connection between us, Queensland and Victoria, so it might be your end, Zac. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Speed test. Someone's jumped on another machine and started watching a high definition video.
Yeah. Not if you can still hear us, Zac. No.
I can hear you. I can't see you.
Oh. Okay. Well, got to tell you that's definitely your end, because we can still see you. So don't do anything. As if you have lost camera, because you're not. We can still see you.
But we'll ask questions. We'll be able to cut. We'll be able to cut.
We're back. Yep.
You good?
I think I'm back now.
Yeah, good. My question was going to
hit the router.
My question was going to be.
Your question was going to be, Darryl?
Yes, my question was going to be in relation to that, which is why I asked the question about the volunteering. I mean, not that I had a great deal of choice. I mean, we had to, as a scout with both parents being leaders, and mum being a district commissioner, we had to be the high achievers in the group. We had to be, the patrol leader. We had to have all the badges, and I'm talking all the badges. There wasn't one that you could, even the knitting badge or sewing badge or whatever it was, didn't get any. So, but I think in relation to that, I've turned out to be a fairly decent human being. I still volunteer. I'm passionate for that. So I think that there is a lot of good ilk that comes from that scouting organisation, and we discuss on a day-to-day basis about the difficulty that a lot of organisations have in recruitment of volunteers, and it seems to be like the perfect breeding ground for those individuals that can step into other roles. So how do we sort of navigate or inspire those leaders to be able to motivate those individuals? Sorry, I'm being waved at here.
Yep. Yes. I mean, I think one of the things that it comes down to is like Scouts has, since its inception, one of the things that Baden Powell really focused on with the book Scouting for Boys, was the fact that it's about giving kids the room to grow into these leadership roles and challenging them and treating them as the future leaders from such a young age. Kids value that. no kid likes being talked down to. No kid likes being told what to do. That's like just a universal experience of being a child. Like, you want to go do what you want to do. And scouting inherently serves those kids by being that space where they can do what they want to do. And you've got the leaders who are there to guide you into these roles where you learn those leadership skills, through the patrol system, which again is something that came from scouting for boys back in the early 1900s, when Baden Powell was first getting all this together. That's the sort of thing that just it really empowers kids, right? They want to be trusted and they want to be given that room to grow. And that does, I think, ring true for people, even, leaders who are coming in, as adults, their parents, they were in Scouts as a kid and now their kids doing it. And they come in as a leader, giving them that room to be in charge of whatever they're in charge of, I think is a very valuable tool. And I think that's one of the best ways that you can develop those leaders, and leaders being anyone who's in charge of anything, using that very broad definition of leadership, and finding what people can be in charge of and giving them that room to grow into that role. And I think that's like the best way that you can, and scouting very much leans to developing that from such a young age as they do progress through the sections, that it just naturally creates these leaders and these people who are, like you see, there's such a high percentage. One of the things that they talk about is once a scout, always a scout. And
it's very hard not to be.
Daryl, when was the last actual official scouting activity you did?
1981.
1981. And you're still you're still talking about scouting.
Yeah, absolutely. And you say that in an official capacity. Every time we go camping, there's a lesson that I teach my kids that was adopted from or acquired from a scouting exercise. All the gamut of things from those tools that you learnt then, how to survive if you capsize a canoe. I think the one thing overall that it gave me was a level of confidence to have a crack. The general motto of scouting is be prepared. And I think that's such a valuable lesson for everybody in life, is just be prepared for what comes. And if you're prepared for what comes, then there's nowhere near as much devastation as what you're not prepared for. And speaking of being prepared, we better be prepared to wind up, because we're stretching over, and we could talk all day. I don't know. But tell us a little bit about your experience now with Firefly and how that's related to and what you think about it, and how we can further develop it to empower more scout leaders and more scouting organisations to join the platform. Because I know we've got some big ticket items, Zac, given the passion that we both share in that environment to get more of the scouting groups active with rewards for their volunteers, because you, like all volunteer organisations, are driven by the volunteers. Without the mums and dads and the other leaders, very hard to run a scouting organisation. So over to you, and give us some good feedback about Firefly, or we'll cut the feed.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, right, like that's always something that, and every volunteer organisation comes up against this, of how do you keep volunteers on board. And I think Firefly creates, like, it also, at a very simple level, it's one less thing I have to think about as a group leader, because I have this program that does, like, I can just get people onto the program, I can get them on Firefly. They can log their hours, and then they can give themselves rewards because they're getting the points, and they can redeem them for things that they want to redeem them for. I did find the number. So there's a bit over 4,500 volunteers across Victoria for Scouts. And those, if there are any other group lead, any other Scouts who end up watching this, get your group on board, do it. It's such a good way. And, we've always, at the end of the year, we've done a barbecue for our leaders as a way to say thank you, a bit of time to relax, give them a Christmas card with a gift card in it and stuff. But, and when that's not going to go away either, because those different levels of recognition are always important. And I think Firefly becomes a very useful tool to just add another level of recognition and give back to those volunteers who are committing endless hours to developing the Scout groups. And, it's developing the future, right? Because that's what kids are. They are the future. And, Firefly takes the, because volunteering always has, you are giving when you're volunteering. And, Firefly is a great tool to be able to give back to those people who are giving so much.
Nice. So, having been a user and having been through that process, and and we talked about some of those opportunities for your volunteers to be able to record their hours, and we had the conversation about those that aren't really in it for the reward, and then we talked about the potential that we've created in the model for passive fundraising through the activity of the volunteers and the recording of hours. And you flipped that switch instantly, and what was the result, Zac?
We've got. I'll actually double check exactly how many points we've got at the moment, so I can tell you what that came to. So we've got a bit over 8,000 of the community tokens, ready to go. I did think you were going to. We're waiting to actually, but that's led to $7,500 of social impact.
Yep.
That's just for me. That's not even for the organisation.
Yeah, that's just for me. Oops. Anyway, I meant about what was the activity like relative to the users onboarding. When we're talking about previously, we'd mentioned that we've got this really nifty app that you can load your hours and get rewards. And there was still some of that hesitation about, I'm not really doing it for the rewards. And I just like to help out. But when you flip the switch about helping with the fundraising activities.
Yeah, that just became instant. I'll sign on. I had that conversation. There was a parent who, our main fundraiser at the group at the moment is we collect scrap metal. From the community. The community comes, they're able to, it's also, one of the core things within Scouting is respecting and looking after the environment that we live in. And that's again something that's been there since the 1900s. Baden-Powell was always we go out in the environment and we respect it. So providing that scrap metal recycling is a way to keep stuff out of landfill. So the community has always been around us because we've been doing it for 8 years now, has always supported us as a group, and they bring the metal in, but we still need those volunteers to actually make sure the metal gets in the bin properly. One of our parents, he comes along and, when he drops his kids off, he spends that, 15 minutes making sure the bin is stacked and it's not stacked up too high and there's not light stuff on top that flies off when the driver picks it up. And he was like, "Oh, I just do this for my kids." When I told him about Firefly, and I was like, "Well, every time that you log hours, the group gets points, which we can turn into straight up money." And he was like, "Whoa, what?" And I was like, "Just log your hours. I don't care if you redeem the points for yourself or not. Like, if the joy of it is all you need to get out of it, that's great. But give the group free money for the fact that you've already done this work." And he was like, "Great." And that night, he finished the sign up and started logging his time. Like, I saw his hours start to come through that night.
And what's the amazing bit with that story is we also talked, Zac, and I think we'll close maybe on this, given time, was we also talked about the importance of our communities registering their goodwill in the way in which they look after our community. And that's not just in the human side, but it's also on the environmental impact side. And so it'd be pretty amazing to think about how we could do these incredible things for our community, raise funds to help the troops be better, but also we're collecting scrap metal and or cans and or bottles and or doing these things. Maybe it's giving to the local St. Vinny's on a rag run. You know what I mean? Like, all of these things are high quality 360-degree sustainable thinking. And I'd like to think that at some stage Firefly is capturing those and recognizing those as well. But we know that the community's delivered 5 ton of steel, do you know what I mean, through their community. Like, this is good information to be held. And then my only question was off the back of that, which I think you were having some internet issues when I asked it, was how do you actually use digital today to trap, or do you not use digital and it's all paper, in respect to the badges and those quests and journeys that you talked about?
No, so Scouts Australia developed a tool called Terrain, and kids can log on to that. I've talked to Daryl a bit about it already. Yep. But yeah, you can log into that, and then the leaders can log in and have that overview of where everyone's at within the
awesome.
unit.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked is simply, are you an organisation that is against digital, even though digital is going to be part of everything that our kids do in the future? You know, we want to limit the amount of digital, but I don't think we can avoid digital, is the point. Yeah.
No. And Scouts Australia have, published about this. It's like, technology has always been something that's like, I mean, technology in so many ways is something like, it's not just IT, right? Like, it's also, development of new tents, right? And new sleeping bags means that we can go out in harsher and harsher conditions, right? And it's to sit there and say that no, scouting should not include any screen at all ever is, I think, a very
naive,
myopic.
I'm trying to think of the most political way to phrase it.
We did it for you.
Mindset, yeah. Look, that's wonderful. I think that's a wonderful finish. I think we've captured some great essence of scouting today. Thank you very much, Zac. It's been a pleasure meeting you. Daryl, do you want to close out the session?
Yeah, look, again, Zac, we've had some great conversations, and it's fantastic, and with no offence to you, but you are another representation of the fantastic volunteer audience that Courtney and I have the joy of dealing with and hearing about every day. The stories that come from you guys that are doing amazing things to keep lifting up our community. I think Smithy has a great a great phrase about the rising tide. Rises, all boats rise on the rising tide. I think scouting, guides, Cub Scouts, is one of those things that continually lifts our community. Maybe not directly, but the Shanes and the Bear Grylls and these guys that go on and keep lifting community post their service in Scouts. So thank you for your contribution to Baden Powell's mission. Thank you to the contribution to the kids that you're working with and the rest of those leaders. We love the advocacy. For anyone that's interested and wants to tap in, Zac has already intimated his desire to be more involved in an ambassador type role with Firefly, because he sees the value proposition for not only his scouting organisations but across the board for not-for-profit. So, Zac, my man, thank you for all that stuff that you're doing, and for joining us here and sharing openly. Your T-shirt says it all.
Eat, sleep, scout, repeat.
Yeah, and Smithy, for all those volunteers out there getting this newsletter, you're stuck with me for the next 2 weeks if you need anything, because Cordo is off overseas to visit some of our international members of the team and some other organisations over there, and do some amazing.
I've got to head now because I've got back-to-backs to try and close out today. Zac, absolute pleasure meeting you, mate. Hopefully we chat on the way around, and at some stage we have a big Firefly jamboree / get together with the amazing humans, the people out there like you, mate. Have a good day, and I will sayonara. Thanks, Daryl. Appreciate your
Thank you, guys.
Cheers. See you guys. Bye.